Hi guys, it's Heather. I've been thinking a bit about the what is magic questions that Brian Cormac Carr's been asking us in his 2 videos of the series that he's doing on magic. And I wanted to think some more about this question and maybe make some videos that would address my answers for this. I did the divinational tool homework one, a couple of minute video that you can see on my channel, but in this video I wanted to spend some time talking about the 5 different models of magic and how I understand them and how I believe what I believe magic is, or how I believe magic works. Most of my information regarding these beliefs, or these models, sorry, have come from Condensed Chaos by Phil Hines and Models of Magic by Freyta UD. They're my main sources of understanding, but these are my own thoughts about how those different models work. So if you're interested in knowing a bit more about where my ideas have come from, please do go and check those books out. They make for some really interesting reading. Now there is going to be quite a lot of me looking down and reading from my notes because I really want to make sure that I've covered everything in this video that I want to say. So please don't think that I'm being weird and avoiding like eye contact or whatever. I'm really sorry. There's a little bit of gas there. So there is going to be a bit of me looking down at my notes just to make sure that I've covered everything. And there's also a couple of little things that I wanted to make clear right from the start. So the first thing I wanted to cover is that technically there are only 4 models of magic, with the 5th model being more of an ish model than a model in its own right. But that will all become clear as I get to the end of this video. The second thing that I wanted to just kind of disclaimer at the beginning of the video is that when I talk about a magic worker, I will use the terminology witch, because that is the term that I'm comfortable with, it's the term that I'm familiar with, and it's the term that I use personally in order to describe myself and what I do. Throughout the video, when I use the term witch, please feel free to insert own terminology here and, you know, think about it in whatever terms, whatever words make the most sense to you. Witch is not a set in stone word, it's just the word that I prefer. Okay, so the first model of magic is the spirit model. And this is possibly the oldest known form of magic, or the oldest model of magic. This is where magic is assisted or affected by those things that exist in an other world, so a world that exists other than our own. And a lot of beliefs are around the idea that the world is separate to ours but layered over the top of it, if that makes sense. So it's not like we're here and it's there, it's like we're here and it's also here but on a different vibrational level or whatever. Within that world, that other world, you have spirits and angels and demons and fairies and gods and ancestors and, you know, whatever you believe in. And what the witch does is they enter the other world through altering their consciousness, and then they communicate with these other beings, and they plead with them, they petition them, they cajole them, they beg them, they bribe them, they threaten them, whatever, into doing the work required to make their will and their desire manifest within the material world. So the spirits do the actual magic. Prayer to a deity would be considered part of the spirit model, and that's something that I myself have used in the past. Ceremonial magic, where you summon a demon or a creature or of some kind and control it to do your bidding, I guess would also be considered a type of spirit magic. That is probably a really, really badly explained idea of ceremonial magic. I know nothing about ceremonial magic at all. I hold my hands up to that. I apologise for that garbled mess of what ceremonial magic is there. Please feel free, if you know more, to enlighten me in the comments below. The second model of magic is the energy model. And from what I understand of this model, this is probably the model that's most referred to within witchy, spiritual, one-on-one, 101 type books. This idea that the whole world, the whole universe is made up of subtle energies, and the witch has, again, alters their state of consciousness so that they can manipulate certain energies in order to create a specific outcome. This energy has been called so many things over time: chi, prana, ki. There's, you know, all sorts of different words throughout cultures and time that have been used to describe this energy. But ultimately, what the witch is doing in spell work is using colour correspondence, using certain smells, using certain herbs, using certain sounds, whatever correspondences you like to use, to help you focus in on the specific energy that you are trying to manipulate. When I do candle magic, this is probably the model of magic I'm most likely to be working within. The third model of magic is the psychology model. And in this model, the other world becomes the inner world. So when we work this type of magic, we use the language of spells to facilitate a conversation between our conscious will and our subconscious faculty. What the spell does is it makes subtle changes to our subconscious, which in turn makes very subtle changes to our conscious thinking, our beliefs, our actions, and our personal realities. By thinking and acting differently, we start to find that we draw more opportunities to us, purely because we begin to notice and we begin to see the opportunities that we would normally have overlooked. And that's how we bring about our desire. That's how we bring our desire to us, is by changing the way that we function and the way that we act and believe and think, so that we start to relate to the outside world differently. Now, Austin Osman Spare, I'll just check I've got his name right. Yes, his sigil magic is built on the concept of the psychological model. And from how I understand it works, is it works in a very similar way to how psychology, I'm never sure if it's Freud or Jung, so please correct me either way, but however which one of them came up with this idea that we create complexes. So when we use sigil magic, the idea is to create the sigil, it's to charge it, focus on it, to, power it up, to destroy it, and then to actively forget it. And the most important part of that process is the act of forgetting. Now, Spare himself said, what did he say? Himself says that there should be a deliberate striving to forget it. So that is the important part. By actively suppressing it, it begins to work on our subconscious. It starts to affect us in the way that negative experiences and personality traits that we've suppressed can affect us. So that's my understanding of how sigil magic works. The fourth model is the information model, and this is what Phil Hines calls the cybernetic model, and what Fraser UD talks about when he refers to a discipline called cyber magic, which has basically grown out of the information model. Unlike the other models, this one doesn't actually require the witch to alter their consciousness in any way. It's how I understand it, again, my understanding of it, is that the world is basically this great big computer, and you need to program it in order to bring about your will. And magic is the conversation between you, the witch, and this great big computer. Basically, you input your desire and the universe outputs it. And a big big part of the information model is that once you have programmed your desire, once you have input your desire to the universe, you then have to trust that the universe will in some way bring that about. You put all of your trust in the universe to deliver whatever it is that you've asked for. Now, the success of this magic is determined by how well you communicate to the universe what it is that you want. So you need to be very clear and very specific about what it is that you're asking the universe for, what it is that you're trying to attract. And attract is a very good word there, because I think this, if you're trying to understand the law of attraction, this is kind of the model that the law of attraction would sit in if you thought about it in a magical sense. So another way that I like to think about this is like the Matrix. The universe is like the Matrix. Once Neo understood that he was in the Matrix and that he could control the Matrix, all he had to do was think about it, and the Matrix would redesign itself in order to give him or to allow him to do whatever it is that he's thinking about. So the information model is kind of like a big computer or the Matrix, depending on how you like to look at it. Okay, so that's the 4 main models, and that leaves us with just the 5th model, or the model that I refer to as the Ish model. And this is the meta model, which I believe is a model that's specific to chaos magic, but also isn't technically a model in its own right. What it is actually the use of all of the other 4 models. So the witch in this case is able to shift between the paradigms of the other 4 models depending on which model works best for whatever it is they're specifically trying to accomplish. I think that being able to shift between paradigms in this way is easy if you accept the concept of belief as a tool. So let me just check just before I go on, I just want to check my notes and make sure that I've covered everything. Okay, so basically belief as a tool. Within chaos magic and within NLP as well, incidentally, there is this understanding that beliefs are not facts, and they can be fluid and they can be changed. Witches who practice chaos magic specifically see belief as an active magical force and acknowledge that all magical systems and all magical models, all these 4 models, have no objective or absolute truth value of their own. So just as belief can be fluid, so can belief in magic be fluid. And that means that you don't have to understand how magic works. You don't have to understand why magic works. You don't even really have to understand what magic is. If you really want magic to work, you just have to be willing to believe that it will. And that's kind of where I am in terms of how I practice magic at the moment. I spent a long time trying to understand how magic works, trying to, read different things about how energy works and about how psychology works and about different ideas about deities, and I've read about minimal about the law of attraction, and actually have kind of reached a point where I've tried all these different things to see which one works best for me, and found that they all worked. And then I kind of read more about belief as a tool and suspending your disbelief and chaos magic, and have reached a point where I feel comfortable swapping in and out of these paradigms, because I believe that whichever one I choose to work with at the time will work. So that's where I am right now. I would love to hear a little bit about where you are right now in terms of magic and how you think it works. And I'd be really interested to hear about your thoughts on the four main models and which ones you tend to use and why. So drop me a comment below and let me know what your thoughts are. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Take care and lots of love. Bye bye.